Okay, so having analyzed the data, having already a draft, no. Now we will proceed with how do we write a phenomenological research paper. No? So here we will be writing the structure, style, and how do we overcome challenges in writing. No? So in this chapter, I will be discussing to you the step-by-step process. But of course, we will be using the IMRAD format. No? And here I will be also including guide questions in every parts so that you can use these guide questions in formulating your own research papers and for future uses, no? Not only in phenomenological research but also in other types of research. Okay, so the agenda of this presentation is first how to structure your paper from introduction, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. And then how do you write it with using the phenomenological lens, and what are the common challenges in writing and how to overcome them, no? So this is a step-by-step process, and I hope this can help you in writing the phenomenological research now that you already have the data and you already have the uh, other stuffs needed, no? So however, in doing so, before you go to your fieldwork, you have also first to write your introductions and methods, and then you have your data analysis, because in most universities you have to propose first, no? And part of the proposal is you have your introduction and your methods, and of course you include also your guide questions and other stuffs, tool, no? Especially there's also a tool in doing participant observation, no? You also have to put already what are the things you want to observe, no? And all those stuffs. Okay, so how do you structure your paper? First, you write the introduction. Now, in the introduction part, the purpose is you introduce the phenomenon, you introduce the research question, and what is the significance of that research question. So, in your introduction, I have here 4 guide questions on how you will write your introduction. First, you explore first what phenomenon are you exploring. So you write down, describe what is the phenomenon that you want to explore in this study. Okay, so it's up to you, no? That's why in the first part, the first step is you have to identify the phenomenon. What kind of phenomenon is that? And then you describe the phenomenon. Then next is, why is that phenomenon important? And put it in the context of your discipline. Now, in my case, my question would be, why is it important in the social science field? No? So what's the importance of that phenomenon, no? In my field? So that's another discussion there, no? In the introduction part. And then on the third part, you write the literature gaps. Now that's your study address. Now, so going back to our previous discussion, we have mentioned on literature review and identifying the gaps. So you identify the literature gap there, and of course, you cannot just write the literature gap directly, but you make a summary of your literature review. No, you can write there in a paragraph and um, write it on a thematic style, topical style, no, and citing all the authors there, no, not only one, but sometimes it looks very nice if you have so many authors, no, in your literature review. And after that, then you you write your gap, no? Because you cannot write the gap to prove your gap. There should be a literature review before it. Now, that's why you write the phenomenon first, then why is it important in your field of study, and then the literature review in a topical way. Of course, do not forget in-text citations, and also in the phenomenon and the importance, you also write in-text citations, and then you write the gap, and then after writing the gap, you explain or you discuss your main research question. And of course, no, you just don't mention your main research question. In writing your main research question, you have to connect it with the gap that you want to address. No? Make sure that this research question fills in the gap that you want to address. No? So these four components are the key, are the essentials, no, in writing your introduction. No? In some other papers, there is still a fifth question. No? What is the significance? Now you can write the significance of your study here. After knowing all this, then what? Okay, and also you can also mention a bit of your research environment. You can also mention a bit of your research environment, just a bit, because you will be discussing that there in your methodology. So this is how you will write your introduction. So we proceed. After introduction, we have methods. So what are in the method section? So in the method section, you will be describing your research design. In this case, you will be using phenomenological design. And then participant selection. How did you select your participants? Then what are your data collection techniques, and how did you analyze your data? So here are some guide questions that you can use also while writing your method section. Okay, so first is, what is the context in the research site? Of course, you have to describe first the research design. What is your research design all about? And then what is the context in the research site? Because sometimes in qualitative research, especially in anthropology, it's very important that you bring your readers to the research site by describing your research site, so that they can have a picture of where this study is being conducted. Now, next is, how were your participants selected? Now, how did you select your participants? Did you use snowball? Did you use purposive, or did you use both, or you have other ways? Might as well, in the selection, in the writing of participants selected, it should be detailed. It should be detailed. And also the data collection. Now, what data collection methods were used? So you also write there in-depth interview. Again, you have to remember the triangulation. You do not use only one method. In-depth interview, you have participant observation, you have reflective essays, and other qualitative methods that you can use in data collection methods. And of course, here you have also to write it in detail. You have also to write it in detail. And the next is, how was your data analyzed? How is it analyzed? So in data analysis, you can discuss those what we have discussed earlier. First, you do not forget the bracketing part, because the bracketing part will really define that is phenomenological research. The bracketing part. So first is you transcribe, and then you did your bracketing, and then the initial coding, then themes. The one that we discussed a while ago. Yeah, again, you have to write it in detail. You have to write it in detail. And then lastly, how did you address the ethical issues, ethical considerations? So you will also mention there the informed consent, all those reflexivity, anonymity. You're asking permissions from the gatekeepers, from the persons in charge, like the LGU, like the municipal mayors, and the parents. Everything should be written there, in the method section. So these questions, if you will answer this, by answering these questions and discussing this comprehensively and in detail, you will now have your methods section. You'll have now your method section. Then after the method section, you will proceed to your results. Okay. Now in your results, you will present the findings, and the way to present the findings is you organize it by the themes, because this is already the result of your data analysis. You already have now the framework, thematic framework of your results. So this is the time that you will narrate that. So of course, what are the guide questions here? First, you make a little introduction. of your results, and then you discuss one by one the key themes, no, that emerge. You discuss one by one. Now, since this is a qualitative research, we do not have numbers, we do not use tables, you can use direct quotations in the discussion of your themes. Now, direct quotations, these are the direct responses from your participants. Now, you can write it there. You can have it in Cebuano, open and quotation, and then followed by a open and close parenthesis, the English translation, and then you write who participant number 2, participant number 3. No, do not write the name to ensure anonymity. No, and then how do these themes reflect their lived experiences? No, so themes, and how do these themes reflect lived experiences? Again, you can structure your results into different themes, following the result of your data analysis. And then what significant statements illustrate these themes? So these are the questions. But the structuring of your results part is you write a little introduction, and then you discuss the themes one by one. First theme, and then discussion of the theme. How does this theme reflect the experiences? And you can use significant statements to illustrate these themes. Remember that this is still the result part, not yet the discussion part. So you will just write there the results. So the themes, and how does this reflect their lived experiences. Of course, this is descriptive, and this is also writing this is also in a narrative manner. Okay, now after your results section, you will now proceed to the discussion part. So here in the discussion part, this is the part of your paper wherein you interpret your findings and you connect to existing literature and discuss implications. Just like the quantitative research, that you will connect to existing literature, you interpret, and you discuss implications. But here, this is qualitative. So guide questions under the discussion is, how do your findings compare to existing research? So your comprehensive literature review might help here. So how do your findings compare to existing research? You look for existing research. Do they have the same findings? And then what new insights do your findings offer? Yeah, because these new insights that you offer is your addition to the literature, your addition to the knowledge, your addition to the vast knowledge. And then how do these insights contribute to the field? Okay, how do these contribute to the field, especially if there in the introduction you have already identified to what field are you writing this about. Here in the discussion, you will write its contribution to the field. So you have already identified the new insights, and what is this insights contribution to the field. Again, you have to discuss that comprehensively. Don't forget to cite, especially the existing research that you will be using. And then what are the practical implications of this? You write the practical implications. You can also write what is the way forward for this. After these results and after the discussion, then what's next? Okay, you structure your discussion like that. Now in other journal, results, and there is a section called results and discussion. They are treated as one section in other papers, but still you can structure it in that way, that you result and then the discussion will always be like this. So what are your findings? How do your findings compare to existing research? What are the new insights, and how does these insights contribute to the field and its practical implications? These are always the main questions of your discussion. These are always the main questions. So having the results and having the discussion, now you proceed to the conclusion. Okay. Now in the conclusion, you will summarize your findings, discuss limitations, and suggest future research. or suggest recommendations. That's why in other journal they will write conclusions and recommendations. So what are your conclusions, and then what are your recommendations? You can sometimes you can recommend for policy brief or extension, trainings and seminars, capacity building, and all. No, so it is there. No, the guide questions in conclusion is, what are the key takeaways of your research? No, you highlight the new insights, the new knowledge that you have derived from the research, from the phenomenological research. And then what limitations should readers be aware of? No, because this your study does not apply to everything. Right? It only applies to that given population, that given phenomenon. So you also put there in your conclusion the limitations. And then lastly, your recommendations. What are the next steps for future researchers? You can recommend na future researchers can study din po yung area or whatever, and then you can also include recommendations for policy, recommendations for extension. No? That is there, no, in your conclusion. And after your conclusion, of course, you will write your references. Now remember that your referencing and your in-text citations depends on the format. Some in the social science field, the APA format is being used, but in other field of disciplines such as theology, they use Turabian, no? And other discipline depending on the journal where you want to submit your paper. No? Some use MLA, some use Chicago. It depends. Now that's why before you write, you should have already in mind a journal where to submit your paper, so that if the journal is requiring you to write it in MLA format, the way you structure your paper is already in MLA format, so that you will not be doing it again and again. Yeah. So yeah, of course, after the conclusion, you have the references cited. No? In the references cited, make sure that all the references there that you have put in the references should have been cited once in your paper. Do not include references that are not cited. Okay? Yeah, so that's how you do it. Now, how do you make sure that what you have written follows the phenomenological lens? No? First, you have to ensure that there is a descriptive language. No? So when you write the results and the discussion, you use vivid language, no, to convey participants' emotions and experiences. What are vivid language? Now, vivid language are language that describes emotions, no, described by your senses. You have to make sure that the emotions and the experiences of the people, the participants, are described, no, in your write-up. And then another is ensure the participant voices. That's why when you write, you include direct quotes to give voice to the participants, no? And to ensure, no, that there is really because you know that these direct quotes are your data. You don't need to count how many utterances and all. No, that is not another type of research. In phenomenological research, your data is the direct quote. That's why you have to put it there. No? And remember, if the direct quote is short, you can just incorporate it with the paragraph. But if your direct quote is long enough, then you can indent the paragraph, no, for the direct quote. And then lastly is contextualization. No? So you place experiences within a broader social, cultural, or historical context. Now you contextualize, to make it more appealing and to make it more descriptive and understandable to your readers. No? So you already have described the emotions and experiences, you use direct quotes, then you contextualize, no? So that they will have a the worldview or the life world, no, of the participants. Because the life world, the background of the participants will help the readers understand more your write-up. Now, what are the common challenges in writing and how to overcome them? First is, of course, no, phenomenological research comes with several challenges, but this can be managed with careful planning and reflection. No? First challenge is balancing description with analysis. So the solution is this: is you ensure that your writing strike a balance between rich description of lived experiences and critical analysis. Now, use thematic headings to organize your paper. Now, as what I've said a while ago, theme, theme. No, but you did not write theme 1, theme 2, theme 3, theme 4. No, you write a certain description of the theme and make it attractive, and make it impactful. No? And then there you organize your paper, alternate between describing the data and interpreting its significance. No? So that is the first. No, you have to balance your description with your analysis. Second is maintain reflexivity. Engage in reflexive writing, where you regularly reflect on your own biases and how they might influence in the interpretation of data. In fact, it is very nice if in your method section to add, if you can write also a discussion that addresses your positionality as a researcher. There you can write your biases. There you can write your biases. Just a paragraph, to somehow narrate to the readers that these are your biases. That these are your biases. Then third is you avoid generalization. You focus on the particularity of each participant's experience rather than generalizing findings. So focus, do not generalize. Focus on their experience. Emphasize the uniqueness of each experience, while at the same time identifying common themes that emerge. That's why it's very important to describe contextually these participants as you go along with your discussion. Say, for example, when you say one participant who is living in blah blah, you give a certain, you describe the context before you write his direct quotation and then the discussion. And then last challenge is the ethical considerations in reporting. So the solution here is protect participants' confidentiality and present their experiences with sensitivity and respect. So use pseudonyms and avoid including details that can inadvertently identify participants. So you have to make sure. That's why you write there participant 1, participant 2, or Fisher Folk 1, Fisher Folk 2, depends. But you do not write who these people are. And make sure that in your description of the context that it does not point out to one single person. They will immediately identify or realize, this is the person that is being talked in the research. So you have to write it in a way that there is still anonymity of the research participant. So that's it. Now that's how you write a phenomenological research. So you structure your paper with clear sections. Now in this presentation, you can go back to the questions in each introduction, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. And then ensure that you are using a phenomenological lens by vividly describing their lived experiences and that by using direct quotations. And then you overcome common challenges by balancing description with analysis and maintain reflexivity, and the suggestion of putting one paragraph in the method section for your potential positionality as a researcher. And of course, ensure ethical reporting and ensure also academic writing. Okay, so this is the way how to write a phenomenological research. So you can just follow the questions and as your guide in writing the paper. You also know how to data gather. You also know how to analyze. And by following these steps, by following my suggestions, you're good to go. You're good to go. Now after this is how do we publish this paper? that we will be discussing in the next presentation.